Welcome! Today, we're going to dive deep into two really powerful Quranic chapters that were revealed during a time of incredible difficulty. We're talking about Surah Yunus and Surah Hud, and together they offer this amazing blueprint for how we can navigate our own tough times. So let's get right into it.
Let's be real. We all face those moments, right? Times that push us to our absolute limits, where it feels like the odds are just completely stacked against us. So the big question we're really exploring here is, when that happens, where do we find the strength to keep going?
Well, the answer we're going to unpack lies right here within these two chapters. Even though they tell different stories, you can think of them as a single, powerful lesson plan, a guide for building resilience, patience, and just plain wisdom when you're up against it.
Okay, so for our first section, we're focusing on the power of patience. But this is not about just sitting back and waiting for things to magically get better. As you'll see, we're talking about an active, kind of unseen strength that completely transforms how we deal with challenges.
The story of the Prophet Jonah, or Yunus, is just the perfect example of this. You can see this whole journey laid out, right? He starts with a moment of despair, then hits a literal rock bottom. You can't get much lower than being swallowed by a giant fish. But then comes the turning point, prayer and perseverance. It's that active trust, even in his absolute darkest moment, that leads straight to his rescue and ultimately his redemption.
And what's so fascinating is how universal this idea is. This isn't just an ancient story. Look at Prophet Noah. He endured decades of people making fun of him while he was building his ark. Or think about more modern figures like Nelson Mandela, who held on to his cause through 27 years in prison. And you might know Chris Gardner's story from the movie The Pursuit of Happiness. The man faced unbelievable hardship. It just goes to show you, this kind of perseverance is a truly timeless key to overcoming just about anything.
All right, let's move on to our second section because the ideas here build on each other. Now the focus zooms out a little from one person's trial to an entire community's choice. And what we get is this stark contrast, a tale of two very different peoples.
And this really lays it all out. On one side, you've got Jonah's people. Now what's so unique about them is that their prophet wasn't even there anymore to warn them. But they saw the signs for themselves, they chose to believe, and because of that choice, they were saved. And then, on the complete other side of the spectrum, you have Pharaoh. He was shown clear, undeniable miracles by the prophet Moses, but he just doubled down on his arrogance and was destroyed. So you see, it all comes down to that choice, humility versus arrogance.
And that theme of arrogance brings us to our third section, because Surah Hud really hammers this lesson home. It presents us with, essentially, a series of historical case studies that show this clear, repeating, and, honestly, devastating pattern.
So first up, we have Prophet Hud. He went to the people of Ad, who were this incredibly powerful civilization. They were so proud of what they'd built, they thought they were invincible. The warning they got was simple, direct.
But they were just so drunk on their own power that they completely refused to listen.
And the consequence was swift and total. They were wiped out by a violent storm. The pattern continues with the people of Thamud. They actually demanded a miracle as proof, and Prophet Saleh gave them one. He brought a living she-camel out of solid rock, an undeniable sign.
But what did they do? In an act of pure defiance, they didn't just reject the sign, they destroyed it. They killed the sacred animal.
Their consequence was just as final, a massive earthquake.
And for a third example, you have Prophet Lot. He pleaded with the people of Sodom, warning them that their whole society was being consumed by corruption.
And again, they completely ignored every single warning and just kept going down that same path.
And once again, the result was total destruction. Seeing these stories back to back to back really drives home the point from Surah Hud. There is a direct, unavoidable price for persistent arrogance when you ignore clear warnings.
And you might be thinking, okay, that's all ancient history. But is it? Look at these modern parallels. Kodak was an absolute giant, but it collapsed because of its arrogant refusal to adapt to digital photography. The builders of the Titanic famously and tragically claimed their ship was unsinkable. And a recent movie like Don't Look Up is a perfect allegory for a society that just plugs its ears when faced with clear scientific warnings of disaster. The pattern holds.
So, what do we do with all this? That's what brings us to our final section. How do we take these incredibly powerful stories and turn them into real, actionable wisdom for our lives right now? The absolute heart of Surah Hud, the core message, is captured right here in this verse. It's a call for two things. First, steadfastness, holding on to what's right no matter what. And second, actively avoiding injustice. It's all about finding that moral and ethical balance in our lives.
And this brings us full circle, right back to our first theme of patience. The key Quranic term is sabr, and it doesn't just mean waiting around for something to happen. It's defined as positive patience, accompanied by constructive actions. Think about that. It means you endure hardship while actively doing the right thing. You trust that your efforts matter. It's the patience of Noah building the ark, of Mandela in his cell, of Jonah praying in the belly of the fish.
And so that leaves us with one last, really vital question to ask ourselves and our society. When we're faced with the clear signs and the crises of our time, which path are we on? Are we choosing the path of Jonah's people, a path of humility, of recognizing the truth, and of being willing to change? Or are we walking the path of Pharaoh, one of arrogance, denial, and just ignoring the warnings until it's too late?